what's up, everyone? This is Ren with Dance with My Demons podcast. Are you looking to start a podcast? Then let Buzzsprout be the way. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show. Podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show could be online and listed on all the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and many more, just within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. With Buzzsprout, you can create something great together. Follow the link in the show notes, which lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. Buzzsprout will send you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and it's sent after a second paid invoice. And it helps support our show as well. Buzzsprout, the best way to create a great and professional podcast. Later.
Hey, what's up? I'm Ren, the host of Dance with My Demons podcast. Are you looking to start a podcast? Then let Anchor be the way. With Anchor's creation tools, you can record and edit right from your smartphone and personal computer. Anchor offers 100% free hosting and distribution, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Anchor allows you to make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Who doesn't want to make money, right? Anchor has everything you need to make a successful podcast all in one place. Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. Just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And don't forget to check out my podcast at anchor.fm/dancingwithmydemons69 and on Spotify, Dancing with My Demons. See you all soon. Later. Bye.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ren with Dancing with My Demons podcast. This is episode 11, and I've entitled it Ode to My Son. This is an episode where I'd like to discuss about the guilt that I carry with me and the repercussions of my actions from my life in the past, from the decisions I've made. I can't put it on completely on my illness, obviously, but I know there were effects. It definitely affected my decisions, and so it does play a part into my life. And I wanted to speak mainly about my relationship with my son, because I think a big part of the repercussions from my decisions have affected my son in such a way that it sent him personally down a path that I think was pretty dark and probably very, very hurtful and very confusing for him. And I think that would go on to last for him for about 5-6 years. But before I even get into that, let's just, start off the episode and let me go back to the beginning of this particular series of events. This was the summer of 2012, and I was involved in a very, very toxic and unhealthy relationship. And I was just so consumed by that relationship that it literally affected every aspect of my life in the most unhealthy of ways. And I think a big part of that, it washed over into my kids. And I blame myself for it. It was the result of my actions. And since that point, I've just carried that guilt, like this need to punish myself for my actions that affected my kids mainly. And also other aspects of my life, but mainly my kids and how it affected them, and my son primarily. So it was the summer of 2012, and my son was going to be a senior in high school, and for those of you that don't know, his mother and I were no longer together, and this dates back, many, many years, so that, he was living with his mom. But I guess at this particular point in his life, he was having a difficult time with his relationship with his mom, and he wanted to come and live with me. And so thus it set off a series of events. And so we went through the whole process of having him come and live with us, and he did, and lived with us for a short period of time. It was actually during the summer. And as we prepared for the new fall season of school and preparing everything for my son, throughout the summer, my then person that I happened to be in a relationship with, and like I said, it was a very toxic, unhealthy relationship. It was affecting my kids tremendously, mainly my son. The person I was with wasn't the best person in the world, especially towards my kids. She was very not nice, let's just say, and treated them poorly. And I blame myself because I knew better, and because of the toxic relationship I was in and how my well-being was in my mind, I allowed it. Whether it was consciously or subconsciously, I have to take responsibility for that. I allowed it. And thus the summer would come to an end, and I think my son was having a really, really terrible time with everything that was going on. And I don't blame him, because if I were in his shoes, I'd feel the same exact way. So thus he had a change of heart, and he wanted to go back with his mom. And looking back, it's totally understandable. But I think at that moment, I was just so consumed by everything that was dark and negative in my life that when he chose to go back, I was personally hurt by it. And I understand now, but at the time when I was just such a mess, I didn't understand it. And it affected me, and thus started a break in our relationship between my son and I. And I definitely feel like it set off a series of events for him as well. He would go on to graduate from high school, and from that point on, his life took a very different turn. I think a much darker turn, thus like myself, when I was going through my dark time. So I definitely relate to it and understand it, because I went through a dark time. It's just kind of scary and freaky to think about how our lives were so parallel in so many ways. And he went down a very tough time, and he would ultimately leave his home where he was living with his mom, and he would move around quite a bit. And I know he was dealing with some issues with substances and struggling. And I think he was just in such a dark place. He was trying to find his way out, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I can't help but feel and blame myself that I just played a big part and set off that chain of reactions for his life to take. I guess I'll never really completely know, but I know I continue even to this day to carry that guilt with me. It's affected my life in a big way, but more so, I consciously chose to take that pain and guilt and carry it with me, carry it on my shoulders like I needed it, and not in a good way. I needed it, I guess to allow myself to be punished for my decisions. I felt like, who am I to deserve an ounce of happiness when I caused pain and sorrow to others? It wasn't until recently that I sat down and had a conversation with somebody very important to me. And he and I sat for hours and we talked. And our conversation started on one topic, but quickly became a much deeper conversation. And looking back at it now, a much needed conversation. And the person I was speaking with reminded me the importance of letting go of that guilt, and how that feeling and that guilt was just going to be a detriment to my life and any possibility of me moving forward in my life and becoming happy. You know, it literally set off much thought and a conversation with my son where I apologized for my actions and let him know how much he means to me and how much I love him and how much I'm so sorry for anything that may have caused him harm or put him in a terrible path at the time. And I think by doing that and actually having the podcast and the conversation I had, all these little elements slowly started a healing process that I really needed. And it made me reflect heavily on the podcast and, what was the true purpose behind it? Why was I creating this podcast? In the beginning, I looked at it was just an opportunity to be a voice, to speak everything that was going on in my mind and how I function with bipolar. But then it became something deeper and something more. I realized that it was an avenue for healing. It was something that I needed to do, and it was something that was so very important to me to be able to move forward in my life. It's a necessity, for me to be able to move forward. And so I guess to people listening out there, always try to remember as we go through our dark moments or any moments where we're dealing, especially when we're dealing with bipolar, any type of mental illness, I would say remind yourself that our actions affect so many other people more than us, more than our own individual selves. It has an impact, and it can have a very profound and terrible impact if you're not careful. And I guess this is just a reminder for myself to always, like a reality check, to remind me that, think about everything that I'm doing. Think about the course of actions that I take and how it could possibly affect other people, because it does. It has a pretty big impact on other people's lives, more so than even my own. And so that's why I felt the need to talk about this. And, I hope my son will listen to this and understand that I love him. And I love my kids very much. They mean the world to me. And I am so sorry for anything that I may have done in their lives that may have, caused them any type of pain or hurt or sorrow or feeling of confusion. I guess I just need them to know that, because first and foremost, bipolar is just a part of who I am, but at the heart of who I am, I'm a dad first, and I'm a dad, to beautiful kids that I love very much. And to my son, if you're listening, so much has changed in your life, especially, within the recent year. And I want you to know you've made me proud. You've picked yourself up from a very dark place, and you found peace and you found love. And now you yourself are about to become a dad. And you get to share so much love and happiness with your new family. And I hope this helps you to understand that you don't ever have to go down that path that I went down, and you don't have to ever go back to that path you were before where things were really dark. That you're going to be a wonderful dad, and you're going to make so many people proud of you, because I know I'm proud of you and where you're headed to now. And I'm also proud, to be able to say that I'm going to be a grandpa. And for all the time and things that I've lost in our relationship together, I hope I can be there now
and I'll always be by your side and always do everything I can, and to all my kids, to be there for you guys and to always show you love. But so I hope this helps. I hope my son hears this. I hope my kids hear this and my family and understand, as we deal with our own personal issues, that it does have an effect on our loved ones around us. And we should always keep that in mind. Keep that at the forefront of our mind when we're saying or doing things or any of our actions, and how they impact our loved ones, especially our kids. And to always remind ourselves to keep ourselves in check and keep ourselves grounded, and to think about our choices as we make them and how they will affect other people. So I hope like I said, this podcast is always about being a voice, and I've always wanted to be completely honest about everything that was going on in my life and literally put it all out there. So if there's anybody out there listening, or any new listeners, any previous listeners, or any current, I hope you all get something out of this, and I appreciate all your support. And to my son, I dedicate this episode to you, ode to my son. I love you very much, and I thank you all again for listening, and I will see you guys again next weekend. And with that being said, stay strong, stay healthy, but most of all, don't let the demons get you down. Later.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I'll be back with an all-new episode very soon. Until then, you can catch past episodes of Dance with My Demons podcast on anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast on. You can also catch me on Instagram at Dance with My Demons 69, on Facebook, Dance with My Demons podcast, on X at DWMD podcast 69. And also, if you or somebody you know is going through an emotional or mental crisis, 988 is the National Suicide Lifeline. Keep that in mind. We're all in this together, and everybody needs each other's help. So until then, stay strong in mind, stay strong in heart, but most of all, don't let the demons get you down. Later.